The research station Asterion floated quietly above the blue glow of planet Darien 4. From the distance it looked peaceful, a silver ring turning slowly against the stars. But inside the air was full of excitement. A new alien species had arrived, the Scifi. No one had ever seen their kind before. Dr. Lena Armitage, a young xenobiologist, stepped out of the docking corridor with a calm face and a racing heart. She had dreamed of this moment all her life. Humanity had met many species in the galaxy, but none like the Scifi. They were mysterious, private, and refused to share much about themselves. This time, Lena was here to change that. She walked through the glass hall of Asterion, passing other researchers and engineers. The smell of sterilized air and soft hum of machines made her feel at home. Her gaze stopped when she saw the viewing deck where the Scifi ship had docked. The alien craft was unlike anything human engineers had built. Its surface moved like liquid metal, reflecting the station lights in flowing waves. A small group of Scifi diplomats stood near their ship, guarded but graceful. They were tall, slim, and their skin shimmered faintly like scales under moonlight. Each movement looked rehearsed, precise, elegant. Among them was Veshra, the Scifi envoy, tall with bright silver eyes that never blinked for long. Her hair floated softly as if air currents obeyed her alone. There was something magnetic and dangerous about her calm presence. Lena watched quietly as Commander Harlan led the greeting. On behalf of the United Terran Alliance, welcome to Asterion. May our exchange bring peace and knowledge. Veshra tilted her head slightly, her voice melodic but cool. May it bring clarity. The human smiled. The translator chip in Lena's ear turned the alien language into smooth English, but it couldn't capture the full tone behind those words. It sounded like a challenge, not a greeting. As introductions continued, a technician walked past with a grin that was too relaxed for the moment. Jonah Reyes, the youngest systems engineer on the crew, was known for his fearless attitude. He fixed problems that others avoided, joked even in serious meetings, and often got into trouble for it. When Jonah's turn came, he offered his hand politely. The Scifi didn't move. The translator whispered that physical contact was forbidden. Jonah's hand hovered awkwardly in the air. He smiled and lowered it. But then, by accident or impulse, his arm brushed lightly against Veshra's. It was a faint touch, barely there. But the room froze. Every human stopped breathing for a moment. The Scifi delegation turned as one, their eyes flashing a sharp blue light. Veshra stepped forward, her silver pupils narrowing. Her voice, when it came, was soft but sharp enough to cut air. "Touch me again," she hissed, "and I will take your blood." A wave of confusion ran through the humans. The translator hesitated, as if unsure of the meaning. Jonah blinked. Then, to everyone's shock, he simply grinned. "Noted," he said lightly, and before anyone could stop him, he gently tapped his finger against her arm again. Deliberate, calm, not mocking, but confident. Gasps filled the air. The Scifi guards tensed, their eyes glowing brighter. But Veshra did not attack. Instead, she froze. Her expression shifted from anger to something unreadable. Curiosity, surprise, perhaps even respect. Lena stepped forward quickly. "Jonah, what are you doing?" He shrugged. "Just testing if she meant it." Commander Harlan's face went pale. "Mr. Reyes, you are way out of line." But Veshra raised her hand. "Enough." Her voice silenced the room. She looked directly at Jonah. "Your kind does not fear consequence." Jonah tilted his head. "Fear? Sure, but fear shouldn't stop learning, right?" Lena's heart beat fast. She wanted to pull Jonah aside and scold him, but something about the moment stopped her. The air felt heavy, like two storms colliding. But beneath it there was understanding. Veshra turned away without another word. "Our business here will continue. For now." She and her delegation walked back toward their ship, silent and graceful as shadows. The meeting ended in uneasy quiet. Later, in the lab section, Lena confronted Jonah. "Do you realize what you just did?" she said, folding her arms. "You could have ruined the entire mission." Jonah leaned against the wall, smirking. "Maybe. Or maybe I broke the ice. By touching a diplomat who literally threatened to draw your blood?" "She didn't mean it literally," he said. "I saw her eyes, more ritual than rage." Lena frowned. "You think you saw?" Jonah shrugged. "Look, Doc, I grew up around people who used words sharper than knives. Sometimes I'll take your blood means don't test me. Sometimes it means prove yourself. Lena sighed. You gamble with diplomacy like it's a game. He looked at her, his grin fading slightly. No. I gamble when I see truth hiding under fear. Meanwhile, in the alien section of the station, Veshra stood before her council. The Scifi envoy spoke in whispers that shimmered like glass. He touched you. Twice. Yes. Veshra said quietly, and I live still. What does it mean? Another asked. It means the humans are either fools or fearless. She looked out through the transparent wall where the stars gleamed. Either way, they are not to be dismissed. Her eyes glowed faintly. The one called Jonah, he felt no tremor when I warned him. He wanted to understand. I sensed no harm in his intent. His scent carried only curiosity. The others shifted uncomfortably. He broke the first law of contact. Veshra's gaze turned firm. Perhaps the law is too old. That night, Lena studied the Scifi biology logs. Their physiology was fascinating. Carbon-based but laced with biometallic tissues. Their blood carried compounds that reflected light in waves, giving them that silver sheen. She wondered what take your blood truly meant in their culture. Jonah entered quietly, holding 2 cups of synthetic coffee. You still angry? I'm trying to stay professional, Lena muttered, not looking up. He placed 1 cup beside her. You think they'll hate us now? She exhaled slowly. Maybe not hate, but they'll never forget. Good, Jonah said. Neither will we. The next morning, Commander Harlan called a meeting. The Scifi have requested a second audience, he announced. Specifically with Dr. Armitage and Engineer Reyes. Everyone stared. Jonah blinked. Us? Why us? Lena's pulse quickened. They probably want to file a protest. Harlan frowned. Maybe, or maybe they want to understand why one of us wasn't afraid. Jonah grinned again. Told you. Icebreaker, Lena groaned. You're impossible. Maybe. But admit it, now they're curious. The second meeting took place in a dim hall filled with soft blue light. Veshra stood alone this time, her eyes calm. Human Jonah, she said. You do not respect our warning. Jonah bowed slightly. On the contrary, I took it seriously. I just needed to know what it meant. Veshra studied him. Among Scifi, such a touch is forbidden without purpose. To touch means to share truth. To touch again means to share self. You offered both. Lena listened intently, recording everything. Was that wrong? Jonah asked. Perhaps, Veshra said softly, or perhaps it was brave. A silence stretched between them, tense but not hostile. Then Veshra added, The next time you touch a Scifi human, be ready for what you might feel. We read more than skin. Jonah's smile softened. Then I'll be careful. When the meeting ended, Lena followed Jonah back to the lab. She looked at him with new eyes, partly exasperated, partly impressed. You're reckless, she said quietly. But maybe that's what humanity needs in moments like this. He winked. Maybe it's what they need too. Lena gazed through the viewport at the alien ship glowing silver in the dark. For the first time, she felt the beginning of something bigger than any of them, something fragile and extraordinary. A single touch had started it. And on the Asterion, under the watch of 2 curious species, the future had just taken its first breath. The next morning on Asterion Station began quietly, but tension filled the halls like static before a storm. Humans and Scifi both went about their duties, but everyone whispered about one thing: the incident in the docking bay. The human who dared to touch a Scifi envoy. Dr. Lena Armitage walked fast through the corridors, her tablet clutched tight in her hands. She had not slept properly. The recording of Veshra's words kept replaying in her head. That hissed warning, sharp and beautiful like broken glass. She wanted to understand it. Why such a phrase? Why such reaction to a simple touch? She entered Lab 7, where transparent walls showed the blue curve of Darien 4 below. Jonah was already there, leaning against the counter, repairing a handheld sensor with a calm face and restless fingers. Lena placed her tablet down. Jonah, do you realize what's happening outside? You're the most talked about man on the station right now. He looked up, a playful glint in his eyes. Good. Maybe someone will finally remember my engineering reports, she sighed. I'm serious. The commander wants me to run a complete analysis of the Scifi contact ritual. He thinks your action might have triggered some kind of signal. Signal? Jonah raised an eyebrow. Like a chemical thing? Maybe. The Scifi emit pheromones when under stress. Their scent molecules change depending on emotion. I think your touch confused that system. Jonah smiled faintly. So I literally messed with her head? Lena gave him a firm look. Don't sound proud. You might have offended an entire civilization. Before Jonah could answer, the lab door opened with a soft chime. Commander Harlan stepped in with 2 guards. Behind him glided Veshra herself, calm and elegant as ever. The humans froze. Dr. Armitage. Engineer Reyes, Harlan said carefully. The envoy wishes to speak with you both privately. Lena bowed slightly. Of course. Veshra's silver eyes moved over the room like light sliding over water. I seek knowledge, she said. Your touch. Your reaction. It was unexpected. Jonah glanced at Lena, who nodded for him to stay quiet. Veshra continued. Among my people, to touch is to open essence. We read the truth in skin. But your kind, your surface lies, Lena tilted her head. Our surface lies? Veshra looked at her hands. When I felt the human's touch, I sensed chaos. Many signals, too many to read. Your body chemistry so wild, so unbalanced. It is impossible to separate truth from fear. Lena's scientific mind lit up. You mean you analyze chemical markers through skin contact? Veshra nodded slightly. It is how we tell friend from foe. A simple scent tells us all. Jonah crossed his arms. So when you said you'd take my blood, it meant I would read it. I would know you deeply. Lena felt a chill. The Scifi threat was not about violence, it was about exposure. You meant to test his intent. Yes, Veshra said. But your kind is unreadable. You are mystery. For a moment, silence held the room. Then Jonah smiled softly. Guess that's part of the fun. Veshra's eyes glimmered. Fun, a human word. You make danger sound like joy. Lena stepped forward. Envoy Veshra, would you allow us to study this ability of yours? Maybe we can find a way to communicate chemical intent more clearly between our species. Veshra hesitated, then nodded once. You may study, but not harm. The balance must stay. And with that she turned and left, her guards following silently. When the door closed, Jonah let out a long breath. Well, that went better than expected. Lena sat heavily at her console. Better? We just found out your little stunt might have started the first true xenochemical misunderstanding in galactic history. He grinned. And maybe the first real friendship, too. Later that day, Lena began her analysis. She took samples of air from the docking bay, running them through a molecular scanner. The data was incredible. Dozens of new compounds appeared, each unknown to human science. The Scifi pheromones reacted differently to human proximity, creating strange, shimmering patterns in the readings. Jonah leaned over her shoulder. Those look like waves. They are, Lena said. Each compound vibrates at a specific frequency. The patterns could represent emotion, like chemical speech. Jonah whistled. So they talk through smell? In a way, yes. But their bodies react automatically. It's honest communication. No lies. Which explains why they find us confusing, Jonah said softly. Lena smiled. Exactly. We hide our feelings. They can't. They worked together for hours, forgetting the time. As they studied, they discovered that when Scifi pheromones touched human skin, they lost structure almost instantly. Something in human biology, enzymes maybe, broke them down. That's why she couldn't read you, Lena said excitedly. Our biochemistry blocks their signals. It's like static noise, Jonah laughed. So I'm unreadable by nature. That explains a lot. But as they celebrated the discovery, a quiet alarm blinked on Lena's console. Unauthorized sample transfer detected, the computer said. Lena frowned. That can't be right. I haven't requested any samples yet. Jonah moved beside her. Show the log. The data showed a hidden command from a corporate subnetwork. A small container of Scifi pheromone molecules had been marked for off-station transport. Someone's stealing their biology, Jonah whispered. Lena's eyes widened. That's illegal. Those samples are diplomatic property. They tried to trace the source, but the command was encrypted. The system ID belonged to Helix Dynamics, one of the corporate sponsors of Asterion Station. Of course, Jonah muttered. Helix always wants profit first. Lena bit her lip. If the Scifi find out, they'll think humans betrayed them. We can't let that happen, Jonah said firmly. We'll find the shipment before it leaves. That night, the station's corridors glowed dim blue. Most crew members slept. Lena and Jonah moved quietly toward the cargo decks. The hum of gravity systems echoed like a low heartbeat. Jonah hacked a side terminal. Here, Container 12B, scheduled for shuttle launch at 0400 hours. They reached the bay and saw the small cargo drone preparing to depart. A glowing crate sat in the corner, sealed with corporate tags. Lena crouched beside it, scanning the lock. This crate contains bioreactive compounds. It matches Scifi molecular structure. Jonah pulled out a tool and bypassed the lock. The lid hissed open, revealing a small glass sphere filled with swirling silver mist. The pheromone compound shimmered, almost alive. Lena whispered, "It's reacting. It knows we're here." Jonah stared at the mist. "It's beautiful. And dangerous." Before they could move, a voice echoed from behind. "Step away from the container." They turned. A man in a Helix uniform stood at the doorway, holding a data pad. His expression was cold. "That property belongs to Helix Dynamics." Lena raised her chin. "That property belongs to the Scifi people. You're breaking interspecies law." He smirked. "We discovered it. We own it. Now walk away." Jonah took a slow step forward. "Or what, you'll call security?" The man's finger hovered over his data pad. "If I must." But before anyone could act, the silver mist inside the sphere pulsed once, twice, and then released a soft wave of light. The scent that filled the air was gentle but powerful. The man froze. His expression softened, then twisted in confusion. Lena gasped. The compound reacted to conflict. It sensed aggression. Jonah grabbed the sphere quickly and sealed it again. "We have to return this to Veshra before it gets worse." They ran through the corridors, alarms now flashing red as unauthorized movement was detected. The corporate agent chased them but lost track when the station's AI shut down non-essential lights. Jonah's override codes worked perfectly. By the time they reached the Scifi wing, the mist inside the sphere had calmed. Veshra was waiting as if she had known. "You took back what was stolen," she said quietly. Lena nodded, panting. "Someone tried to smuggle your biochemistry. We stopped it." Veshra touched the glass sphere gently. "You protected what was not yours to begin with." "That is rare among your kind." Jonah gave a small grin. "Guess we're full of surprises." Veshra's silver eyes rested on him. "You confuse and intrigue in equal measure, human. Perhaps your chaos is your strength." She lifted her hand and pressed 2 fingers lightly to Jonah's wrist. "Now I touch. And I see truth." Jonah felt a brief warmth, like a gentle current running under his skin. Veshra smiled faintly. "Yes, truth." When she left, Lena and Jonah stood in silence. The stars outside looked brighter somehow, and Asterion hummed softly under their feet. Lena finally spoke. "You know, for someone who causes trouble, you keep ending up saving the day." Jonah laughed quietly. "Maybe trouble is just another name for progress." She smiled back. "Let's hope the commander agrees." They walked together down the quiet hall, the silver mist still glowing faintly in the sealed sphere. Neither knew that this small act, saving one stolen sample, would soon decide the future of human and Scifi relations. For now, though, the secret rested safe in their hands. And somewhere deep inside the alien compound, something alive whispered back. The news spread through Asterion Station like light through glass. Someone had tried to steal Scifi biosamples, and the theft had been stopped. By humans. Dr. Lena Armitage and engineer Jonah Reyes became the center of quiet attention. Some people called them heroes, while others whispered that they had only made things worse. Commander Harlan summoned them early the next morning. His office window showed the endless stretch of stars, but his expression was all business. "Do you two have any idea what kind of storm you've started?" he said, voice low. Lena straightened her back. "Sir, we only did what was right. The samples were stolen." "I know," Harlan interrupted. "And the Scifi know too. They're asking for a public meeting. They want to show something to the entire station." Jonah leaned forward. "Show what?" Harlan sighed. "I don't know. But they specifically asked for you, Jonah." Jonah blinked. "Me? Why me?" The commander looked tired. "Maybe because you touched one of them. Maybe because they think you understand them. Either way, don't make any more trouble. This time, the whole galaxy might be watching." The meeting was held in Asterion's Grand Assembly Hall, a large open space surrounded by clear panels showing the stars. Humans, Scifi, and even a few robotic delegates filled the area. The air shimmered faintly. The Scifi's presence changed the station's light in strange ways. Lena stood beside Jonah as Veshra entered. She wore a simple silver robe that caught every beam of light, Behind her walked two Sirthi elders, their movements calm and deliberate. Veshra spoke, her voice soft but carrying across the hall. There has been dishonor. One among your kind tried to take what was not theirs. But there has also been truth. One among your kind returned what was stolen. Her eyes rested on Jonah. The crowd murmured. The translator echoed her words in calm tones. Veshra raised a crystal sphere, the same one Jonah had recovered. This holds a piece of our being. It carries the scent of our emotions, the song of our blood. It reacts to intent. When it felt greed, it turned against you. When it felt courage, it calmed. Lena watched in fascination. It's almost like it can feel morality, she whispered to Jonah. Yeah, Jonah said softly, like a conscience made of light. Veshra continued, to understand each other, we must learn to read what lies beneath the skin. So I propose a new ritual, one between human and Sirthi. A sharing of truth. The commander looked uneasy. Envoy Veshra, what exactly does that mean? Veshra smiled slightly. A simple exchange. One of your kind allows me to read their essence. One of mine allows you to read ours. Jonah took a step forward before anyone could stop him. I'll do it. Lena grabbed his arm. Jonah, wait. You don't even know what she means. He gave her a small grin. Yeah, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? A few minutes later, the ritual began. The crowd fell silent. Jonah and Veshra stood at the center of the hall, facing each other. A soft blue mist surrounded them, harmless but glowing. Veshra raised her hands and touched Jonah's wrist gently. Her fingertips were cool, almost electric. For a moment, nothing happened. Then faint ripples of silver light moved across her skin, spreading to Jonah's arm. Lena watched closely, scanning the data on her tablet. His body temperature is rising slightly, she murmured. Heart rate stable. Pheromone readings, astonishing. Veshra's eyes closed. I see many things, she said softly. Anger, curiosity, laughter. Loneliness. Jonah blinked. You can read that? Yes, Veshra whispered. But there is something else. Beneath your surface there is chaos, yet also harmony. Humans live with conflict and still move forward. That is rare. The silver light dimmed, fading slowly from their skin. When the ritual ended, Veshra stepped back. Your essence is not like ours. It is unpredictable. It carries fire, Jonah smiled gently. We call that being human. The crowd applauded softly, unsure whether they had just witnessed science or something sacred, but the peace did not last long. Hours later, alarms blared across the station. Unauthorized systems breach detected. Someone was trying to access the research servers. Lena rushed into the lab, Jonah right behind her. It's Helix again, she said. They're trying to download the Sirthi biological data. Jonah sat at the console, fingers flying over the keys. Not on my watch. He opened the system's AI core and rerouted the transmission. If they want the data, they'll get something else. Lena frowned. What are you doing? Jonah grinned. I'm going to give them a live translation feed of the Sirthi communication rituals. Let's see how they like learning the hard way. Within seconds, the entire station's announcement system turned on. Voices filled the air, soft Sirthi tones translated into plain human speech. Trust is not taken. Trust is given. Blood is not danger. Blood is truth. Those who steal truth lose face before stars. Crew members stopped in their tracks, listening. The words echoed through corridors and living quarters alike. Even people who didn't understand the science felt the meaning. Commander Harlan's voice came through the comms. Reyes, what have you done? Jonah smiled, just letting everyone hear what they were too busy to understand. In the Sirthi sector, Veshra stood before her people, listening to the broadcast. She could sense the change. The humans were trying to connect, not dominate. She turned to her aides. The human speaks in boldness. He risks much, but his heart is clean. Perhaps their chaos carries wisdom after all. Back in the lab, Lena received a message from the station council. The broadcast had gone viral across human networks. Billions were hearing the Sirthi phrases for the first time. Public opinion began to shift, from fear to fascination. Jonah, Lena said, turning to him. I think you just saved the mission again. He leaned back, exhausted but smiling. Guess I'm good at cleaning up my own mess. But before they could relax, the station lights flickered. The AI voice spoke softly, warning. Intruder detected in storage wing. They ran toward the sound. When they reached the corridor, they found the Helix agent from before, trying to steal another sample. He looked desperate. "This time," Jonah said, stepping forward, "you're not getting away." The agent laughed bitterly. "You think you can stop progress? We own this station." Veshra appeared behind them, silent as shadow. "Ownership is not truth," she said calmly. The agent froze. He dropped the sample and backed away. You shouldn't be here." Her eyes glowed faintly. "This is my people's essence. You sought to sell it. You will not." Security arrived moments later, taking the man away. Jonah exhaled, tension leaving his body. "That could have gone worse." Veshra looked at him. "You acted with courage, human, again." Lena smiled. "Seems like a habit of his." Later that night, Asterion Station felt calmer. The threat was gone. Humans and Scifi worked side by side, cleaning the lab, restoring data, and updating protocols. Lena and Jonah sat in the observation lounge, drinking warm tea. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the window. "You know," Jonah said quietly, "I think she respects us now." Lena smiled. "I think she always did. She just needed to see who we really are. Unpredictable, emotional, reckless. Brave, curious, and honest," she corrected. He chuckled softly. "Same thing." The next day, the Scifi held a small ceremony of gratitude. No grand speeches, no gifts, only a symbolic exchange. Veshra placed her hand over her heart and bowed to Jonah. In Scifi tradition, to touch is to share truth. "You have shared yours freely. We offer ours." She handed him a small crystal token, glowing faintly. "This holds the pattern of our first contact. Keep it. Remember that curiosity can build bridges." Jonah accepted it with both hands. "And bridges need care to stay standing." Veshra smiled. Indeed. Lena stood beside them, her heart full of quiet pride. Humanity had not just survived the encounter, they had grown from it. As the ceremony ended, the crowd dispersed. Jonah turned the crystal in his hand, watching the tiny silver light swirl inside. "You think this thing's alive?" he asked. Lena smiled. "Maybe not alive, but it remembers." That night, when the station lights dimmed and silence returned, Lena recorded a message in her log. "Humanity's greatest strength is not technology or power. It is empathy, the will to understand. The Scifi came with warnings and rituals, and we answered with mistakes and courage. Somehow it worked." She looked out at the stars. Asterion floated peacefully like a bridge between worlds. In another part of the station, Jonah placed the glowing crystal on his desk. It pulsed softly, almost in rhythm with his heartbeat. He smiled, whispering to the empty room. "Touch me again and I'll take your blood, huh? Guess you meant something else after all." The crystal shimmered faintly, as if answering him back, and somewhere deep in space, the universe watched as humans and Scifi took their first true step. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as partners in the endless mystery of the stars. The calm after the small Scifi ceremony did not last long. As the humans and Scifi continued their research together, a larger storm was brewing outside the safe walls of Asterion Station. Word of the attempted theft and Jonah's daring actions had spread beyond the station. Corporate boards on Earth and in nearby colonies were furious. Helix Dynamics had not forgotten the embarrassment of having their plan thwarted. Commander Harlan called an emergency council meeting. "They're demanding control over all Scifi samples," he said, his fingers tapping on the table. "They claim the humans endangered valuable property." Lena sat quietly, glancing at Jonah. "They want to take the Scifi under corporate rule," she whispered. "That's dangerous." Jonah leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Dangerous, but predictable. They always think profit matters more than respect." Harlan nodded grimly. "We need a plan that convinces them otherwise. And fast." Meanwhile, Veshra and her council observed the humans carefully. "They are clever," she said softly. "But one act does not prove trust. We must see their honesty in action repeatedly." One of the Scifi elders tilted their head. "The human called Jonah shows bravery and understanding. Yet the rest, your people, could still fail." Veshra's silver eyes glimmered. "Then we will watch, and the human will show them how." The next day, Lena and Jonah prepared for a public presentation of Scifi knowledge. Helix executives had sent a legal notice demanding access to all data. Claiming the humans' handling of the samples was improper, Lena explained, We have to show the universe why the Scifi's methods are incompatible with theft or forced extraction. Otherwise, Helix will try again. Jonah smirked. Sounds like a perfect time for a live demonstration. Together, they devised a plan. Using the station's AI, they would broadcast a live feed of the Scifi ritual readings. Any attempt by outsiders to misuse the data would fail, and the public could see the truth. The hall was packed. Humans, Scifi, diplomats, and a few nervous journalists crowded the space. Veshra took her place at the front. Jonah and Lena positioned themselves at the control console. "Observe," Lena said quietly. She started the broadcast. Veshra lifted her hand and allowed the humans to approach a small crystal sphere containing the Scifi pheromones. One by one, volunteers from both species touched the sphere under careful guidance. The sphere glowed softly with each touch, pulsing in response to intent. When a volunteer tried to act without consent or with selfish thoughts, the light flickered and dimmed. When a volunteer approached honestly, the sphere shone brighter than before. Helix executives in a separate observation chamber tried to access the sphere remotely. Their screens flickered. Data streams failed. The Scifi compounds resisted being measured without consent. Jonah smiled. Looks like the universe has a very polite no button. Lena nodded. And everyone watching can see why it's impossible to exploit the Scifi without respect. The crowd erupted in murmurs of awe. News feeds across the network carried the broadcast, showing billions of humans the beauty and precision of Scifi communication. Even the Scifi elders, who had been skeptical of human intentions, leaned forward, impressed. After the demonstration, Veshra addressed the audience. This is not just science. It is a living lesson in trust. Humans who approach us with honesty are accepted. Humans who attempt theft are stopped. And yet one brave human showed that mistakes can lead to understanding. Her eyes met Jonah's. You, she said, showed courage and clarity. You did not fear consequence. You acted for the greater good. Jonah bowed slightly. It was not all me. Dr. Armitage helped keep me out of trouble. Lena rolled her eyes. Barely. You could have gotten us expelled. The crowd laughed softly. Even Commander Harlan allowed himself a small smile. But the storm was not over. Helix executives had not given up. The corporate board demanded a hearing before the Interstellar Council. They claimed humans had endangered valuable property and demanded control over the Scifi samples. Jonah and Lena were called to testify. The hall was filled with stern faces, humans and aliens alike. Cameras and translators captured every word. Lena stepped forward first. Honorable delegates, the Scifi are sentient beings with their own culture and rules. Their biochemistry cannot be forced or stolen without causing harm. Humans who tried to take their samples illegally acted outside our mission guidelines. We corrected the mistake. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. We did not act to control them. We acted to respect them. And we succeeded because of honesty, not power. Jonah stepped up next. I touched the Scifi envoy Veshra against protocol. And I wasn't punished. Why? Because she chose to see my intent. I acted with curiosity and respect, not fear or greed. That's the kind of human we are at our best. Veshra herself approached the podium, touching the crystal sphere lightly. What he says is true. Humans can act recklessly, but they can also act with integrity. That choice defines them more than any law. The council murmured, impressed. Even some of the most skeptical delegates leaned forward, watching the tiny crystal pulse softly in response to truth. The Helix attorney tried to argue. Intent does not change ownership. Samples belong to Helix Dynamics. Human error has endangered corporate property. Veshra's eyes glimmered. Ownership is meaningless if it causes harm. True responsibility requires respect. Humans here have demonstrated responsibility. You have not, Jonah smiled faintly. Guess that's what happens when greed meets honesty. The council voted. The result was unanimous. Helix's claims were rejected. Humans retained control of the samples, but more importantly, a new protocol was established. All Scifi exchanges must be voluntary. Ritual sharing of biosignals is the only authorized method. Violations would be met with immediate diplomatic response, not corporate theft. The room erupted with quiet applause. Veshra bowed slightly. The bridge has been built. It is up to both sides to keep it standing. After the hearing, Lena and Jonah walked through the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly around them, unbroken and serene. You know, Jonah said quietly, holding the glowing crystal. We just taught some humans a big lesson in honesty, and we taught the Scifi we can be trusted. Lena smiled. I never thought a single touch could start all this. Jonah shrugged. Sometimes all it takes is one brave mistake. They reached the edge of the deck. Below, the Scifi ship shimmered against the dark backdrop of space. Its surface reflected their lights, bending them in impossible patterns. Veshra appeared on the deck beside them. Human Jonah, she said softly. The bridge we built today is strong, but it must be maintained. Your courage is remembered. Your kindness is noted. Remember, the next touch may carry consequences far beyond what you imagine. Jonah looked at her, then at Lena. We'll be careful. But we won't stop learning either. Veshra nodded. Good. Curiosity is a worthy companion to respect. That night, Asterion hummed softly. The threat of corporate interference was gone. Humans and Scifi worked side by side, analyzing samples, sharing knowledge, and slowly building mutual trust. Lena recorded her journal for the day. Today, humans learned that honesty is stronger than power. We learned that courage is not reckless, but measured in action. The Scifi reminded us that understanding must be mutual. And Jonah, he reminded us that a single act of bravery can build bridges across the stars. Jonah leaned back in his chair, watching the glowing crystal pulse gently. You think they'll ever forget us? They might, Lena said softly, but they'll never forget the truth we showed. Jonah smiled faintly. Then we did our job right. Outside the observation deck, stars stretched endlessly, and the galaxy seemed quieter somehow, as if it, too, recognized the small victory of humans and aliens standing together. And somewhere in that vast silence, the first true bridge between humanity and the Scifi stood firm, shining like the soft pulse of the crystal in Jonah's hands. The first light of Darien 4 stretched across the horizon like a gentle ribbon of gold and blue. From Asterion Station, the planet looked peaceful, calm and untouched. But inside the station, activity buzzed like a living heartbeat. Humans and Scifi worked side by side, sharing discoveries and ideas that had once seemed impossible. Dr. Lena Armitage moved carefully through the labs, reviewing notes on the Scifi biosamples. Their chemistry was more complex than anything human scientists had encountered, but the partnership between species had changed everything. No longer were the samples mere data points, they were symbols of trust, understanding, and respect. Jonah Reyes entered carrying the small crystal token given to him by Veshra. Its soft glow pulsed gently, almost in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He placed it on the lab table, leaning over to examine the patterns inside. You think it's alive? Lena asked, raising an eyebrow. Jonah shrugged. Maybe not alive, but it remembers everything that's happened. Every touch, every choice. Like a diary that glows, Lena smiled. A glowing diary. That fits you perfectly. Jonah laughed softly, but the sound carried more warmth than humor. I never thought a single touch could start all this. You underestimate humanity, Lena said quietly. We don't just survive. We find ways to grow even in the strangest situations. Jonah nodded. Yeah, and sometimes the strangest situations involve aliens who can read your blood like a book. Across the station, Veshra walked through her own labs, accompanied by Scifi aides. Her silver eyes reflected the pale lights above. The elders had watched the humans carefully over the past weeks, observing their habits, decisions, and intentions. They are unlike any species we have encountered, one elder said softly. Veshra nodded. They are messy, unpredictable, emotional, yet courageous and honest when it matters. That is why trust can exist between us. They remind us that strength is not only skill, but also choice. Her gaze drifted to the viewport, where the planet shimmered in the early light. Perhaps these humans can walk alongside us, not as conquerors, but as partners. The next mission was clear. Both species would formalize their partnership. A joint laboratory would be established on the station, where human and Scifi scientists could work together on research that benefited both. Policies were written, carefully drafted to respect Scifi customs and human curiosity. Commander Harlan gathered the senior staff for the announcement. This is more than science, he said. This is an example of what humans can do when we combine intelligence, courage, and empathy. We are not here to take. We are here to learn, to understand, and to build bridges. Jonah grinned. Bridges, huh? Feels good to finally be part of one. Lena rolled her eyes. You mean finally not destroy one by touching the wrong person? He laughed. I call it bold diplomacy. In the ceremonial chamber, the Scifi and humans signed the partnership protocol. Veshra's hand hovered over the crystal token, which now glowed brighter than ever. Each delegate placed a hand on it, human and Scifi alike sealing the agreement. Lena watched as the token pulsed softly, sensing the intent of every participant. Each pulse was a promise: honesty, cooperation, and mutual respect. Jonah stood beside her, smiling faintly. It's amazing. We started with one touch, and now look at this, Lena nodded. One touch, one choice, one act of courage. Humanity can make bridges even when it seems impossible. Veshra turned to Jonah. Human Jonah, your action has become symbolic. Your curiosity, respect, and courage are remembered by my people. Your choice shaped the beginning of a new era. He took a deep breath. It's funny. I never thought I'd be remembered for being polite. Veshra's silver eyes softened. It is more than politeness. It is understanding. And understanding builds worlds. With the ceremony complete, life aboard Asterion continued. Humans learned Scifi rituals, careful techniques for exchanging chemical signals and methods of communication that went beyond words. Scifi learned human science and engineering approaches, appreciating creativity and improvisation. Jonah became an official human envoy, traveling with Veshra to teach other humans about Scifi customs and how to approach the species respectfully. His grin and calm confidence made tense meetings easier, and he had a knack for showing bravery without recklessness. Lena led the research team, combining human ingenuity with Scifi precision. Together, they discovered new chemical compounds, energy sources, and biological interactions that would benefit both species for generations. One evening, Jonah and Veshra stood on the observation deck, watching the silver glow of the planet below. Veshra spoke softly, almost as if to herself. The phrase I once hissed, "Touch me again and I'll take your blood," was a warning. But it has changed meaning. Now it reminds me of the trust we built. Jonah smiled, holding the crystal token. So it's not a threat anymore? No, Veshra said gently. It is a promise. A promise that our truth is shared, and our bridges are maintained. He touched the token lightly, careful this time, respecting the moment. The crystal pulsed, sending a soft glow through both their hands. Not bad for a human, Veshra whispered. Not bad for a Scifi either, Jonah replied. They laughed softly. A quiet moment of joy in the midst of stars. Months later, the first joint research findings were shared with the galaxy. Humans and Scifi presented discoveries in energy stabilization, biocommunication, and interspecies collaboration. The reports emphasized not just science but also ethics, respect, and cooperation. Billions of humans across colonies read about it, inspired. Billions of Scifi learned that humans could be trusted partners. Lena recorded a final note in her research logs. Humanity is at its best when we combine intelligence with empathy. Courage is not just action, it is the choice to do what is right even when uncertain. The Scifi taught us the meaning of shared truth, and we have learned how to honor it. Our future is brighter for it. Jonah, reading over her shoulder, smiled. See? Told you one touch could start something big. Lena shook her head, laughing softly. It wasn't just the touch. It was the choice. That's what humans do best. On the observation deck, the crystal token glowed softly under the twin suns of Darien IV. Jonah placed it on the railing and looked out at the galaxy. You think we'll ever stop learning? He asked. Never, Lena replied. Curiosity is what makes us human. It's what keeps us alive, growing, and respected by other species. And sometimes, it even starts with a single touch. Veshra appeared beside them, silent but present. Her silver eyes reflected both the stars and the glowing token. The future is ours to build together. Humans, Scifi, allies, partners, friends. Jonah nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of her words. He looked at Lena and said softly, Partners. I like that, Lena smiled. I think the galaxy will too. Above them, Asterion Station glimmered in orbit, a shining symbol of what humans could achieve. Courage, empathy, intelligence, and the ability to reach out, even across worlds. The crystal pulsed one last time as the twin suns rose fully over the horizon, and for the first time everything felt possible. Humans and Scifi had walked together through fear, misunderstanding, and danger. Now they stood together at the dawn of a new era, one where trust, respect, and curiosity would guide the choices of both species. And somewhere deep in the stars, The galaxy waited to see what humans would do next.